Welcome back to Year in Review. We'll be briefly talking about the games I didn't get to cover. This is not a review, and this is not part of my first impression series. Hold on a second. Oh, I did try to do an actual video on this game, and... Alright, anyway. Metal Max is a long-running, turn-based RPG series. It's Mad Max meets JRPG, but in addition to your characters, you also have customizable tanks to explore and fight with. Now, finally, at last, this legendary series that didn't even see Western localization for most of its mainline entries finds its way to PC and... oh no. Oh no, God, no. So Xeno Reborn is a remaster, so to speak, of Xeno, which was released on PlayStation 4 some time back. Reborn improves upon a lot of systems from Xeno, but mysteriously, there's a lot of cut content from the original release in this supposed remaster. Yeah, that's weird, right? But we're just getting started. The pre-order DLC was broken at release, so it was just removed from the Steam store page and refunded to buyers. The PC port is unsurprisingly bare bones. The game doesn't officially support keyboard and mouse controls. There is no way to rebind your buttons for controllers in-game. The options menu for video and resolution is pathetic. The game has some visual issues on certain hardware when running above 60. There's no Steam Cloud Sync despite this being a JRPG that hits the double digits in length. The game asks for $40, yet looks like an up-res PS2 game. The translation is rocky, and even unfinished at one point during my playthrough. And that's just the technical side. Gameplay has its own problems. At the start, you have no idea what you're doing for the first hour or so until you get to the hub base, and then you're bombarded with tutorials regarding things you've already figured out in the first hour. It's shockingly linear despite being marketed as an open-world game. There's no consequences for dying, despite being in a setting where resources are scarce and scavenged. The navigation sucks, the map sucks. There's a massive difficulty spike a few hours into the game that I couldn't beat without cheesing, and overall the combat leans on the shallow side. But somehow I came out liking this game? What? Like, don't get me wrong, it's really flawed, and I wouldn't recommend it outside of a sale, but even with all its problems, I still enjoyed some of the core mechanics, and nothing really stuck out that pissed me off. It's a turn-based RPG, but because of its engagement system, it's easy to get away from unnecessary fights. The tank mechanics are actually fun to utilize, since you can actually customize the thing and drive it around, collecting scrap and loot, and driving it is actually fun. The game is actually fairly challenging in a good way through its bounty system, where you can fight boss-like enemies that drop crazy good loot and tons of money. And even though there was a difficulty spike early on that drove me nuts, it did push me to level up my characters and improve my tanks and figure out the game's systems, and getting back to the fight was extremely quick and not painful to do, just confusing when I kept dying to it. Basically, I was fighting a spider mech robot in a abandoned city area, and I could not beat this thing. I had went back and found an ally to help me out. I had upgraded my characters, upgraded my guns, got all the best weaponry I could find, and I still couldn't beat him. I got a bunch of items, I got even better stuff, and I still couldn't beat him. And part of the problem is that this game has no health bars, so when you're fighting an enemy, you don't know if you're about to kill him or you stand no chance. And that kind of sucks. I do understand that that's a design decision, and that makes for a more interesting game, but I would like an option to let you toggle that to know, okay, how badly am I doing right now? And then I'll just turn it back off and get back on track. I ended up having to exploit that boss by driving out of the city, out of his engagement range, and then back in, and then doing this back and forth, and eventually I killed him after multitudes of attacks. It was ridiculous, but I did kill him. But, you know, this sums up just trying to do a video on the game, because everything is just kind of confusing, and everything is kind of difficult to talk about, because I wanted to cover this game earlier on, but I hit so many roadblocks where I was just trying to figure it out, if it was just me or the game. But when a game grabs my attention, I give it a bit more leniency in doing a video on it, so I spent hours playing it to really flesh out the video, and I never ended up doing that video. So that's what you're getting here. The video is as convoluted as the game. The port does suck, but the menus on controller are really good. One of the better setups for a JRPG for the menu system. Less time in the menus, more time in the game. I like that. Some of the art is actually really nice. The concept art looks great, but the graphical fidelity, as you could probably tell, is super dated. It looks like a PlayStation 2 game on a PlayStation 3 HD collection. The combat on the ground or in a tank is still on the disappointing side too. Now, if the game had positional damage with weak points and mechanics regarding speed and distance from the target, this genuinely would be a flawed but absolute gem of a title, offering something no other JRPG could offer on the market, and the combat would be immensely more fun if all of that was balanced. As it stands, I did enjoy the game, and I didn't find it to be a chore to play at all, but it's got nothing special in its mechanics, and it does make me feel wanting more. It's a very fast-paced game that has a fair share of challenge, which means it's not boring, just flawed. I know this video is a little bit all over the place, but if this game seems like it's up your alley from what you've seen in the gameplay footage and what you've been hearing, give it a look, but only on sale and a deep discount at that. But until then, you're better off checking out the older games, specifically on DS, but you'll need to download a fan translation patch. The only other game translated officially is Metal Saga on the PlayStation 2. It boggles my mind that of all the games in this franchise we get officially translated and released on PC, we get one of the worst ones. Still, if this is the franchise at its worst, I really want to see it at its best. I'll probably check out those DS games next. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. This is part of our year in review series. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be covering more games throughout the month just like this. Probably a little bit better in terms of structure. This was a game that I had about 8 hours in, and I really wanted to get all of this out as quickly as possible, so a little bit weird for the format. But for the most part, it's going to be shorter videos, better videos than this one, and we're going to wrap it up at the end of the month with my top 5 best and worst games of 2022, so stick around for that. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm out.